Guys, okay, so first to recap what I told when I thought I was giving Shiur Daf this morning, when I told Rabbi Wasserman to show you. So, we've only had Shiur now for 2.5 weeks, and this is, thank you, and it's time too that Adam texts me and tells me that I made a mistake. So yesterday Adam WhatsApped me and he told me, well, I'm a sofer.
Wait, do you have a schedule of him to tell you when you did something wrong? So on Tuesday nights, do you have to...
No, but anyways, so he pointed out to me that it is easier to understand the Rishonim if you realize that over the years the exact way that we write letters has changed, and the exact way that we write it now is probably not the way it was looking to them, and therefore it's a bit easier to understand what they're talking about practically in Kotzer Shel Yud if you look at some of the older manuscripts that we have, right, that reflect texts that they might be familiar with. So the classic one is the Aleppo Codex. So the Aleppo Codex, right, the Aleppo Codex is we mentioned this already, right? The most authoritative codex that we have. But if you look at the print in the Aleppo Codex, right, and you look at the Yud, right, it looks different than ours, right? And you understand what it might have meant that the lower leg is missing, right? You see what you're looking at there?
It looks like it is missing a little bit, like it's faded
compared to what we have. Well, first of all, it's not a Sefer Torah. This is a codex, right? But I printed out just a few copies of 3 different manuscripts. Admittedly, none of them are Sefer Torah. Right? The Aleppo Codex is not a Sefer Torah, though it's supposed to mimic the letters in a Sefer Torah. The Leningrad Codex, which is the other most authoritative codex that we have, again, not a codex is like a tikkun, essentially. Well, not really. Whatever. A codex is a book of Tanakh that tells us how to write a Sefer Torah and has the Nikud and has the Ta'amim and all that. And then from it, just to get sort of writing from the medieval period, I got the Kaufman manuscript, which is one of the oldest medieval manuscripts we have of the Mishnah. And in each of them, you can see why the Yud looks a little bit different, and what it might mean that the top crown or the lower crown or the right side, what that means might be a bit different. So I just printed out a few copies. You can just pass it around and look and see what I mean. Just look at random Yuds, and you'll see when they talk about the left part that leans down, right? It makes a little bit more sense that that's what they're talking about.
They're not like branches that we've been trying to show on the board or anything. They're not thin.
Correct. They're not like...
They're actual corners.
Yeah, and that's why, and it's much clearer how they would be distinct from the tagin, right, from the crowns, right, because you're talking very much. You see how that's part of the letter.
The only thing that looks dangerous is the end of the Yud. The end of the Yud varies in length and all of that.
Okay, I mean, remember, none of these are Sefer Torah, these are codexes, right?
Yeah, isn't that codex from a Sefer Torah?
No, it's a codex.
Oh.
Like, a codex is just a book of a Chumash or a Tanakh, right, that tells you how to read it, the right tamim, the right nikud, the right spelling, the right chaser, but it's not a Sefer Torah itself, right? It's not held the halachic strictures of a Sefer Torah, right? This just helps you understand what they're looking at. But he argued compellingly that when like Rabbeinu Tam talks about like the part on the bottom, right, you see much more what he's probably talking about, right? It's not like a little thing jutting out. It's the letter, right? Like you see what he's talking about there.
Yep.
Right? Okay, we're all seeing the pictures. We have a big idea. Okay, that's just a little bit of practical thing, and obviously this is now, as I mentioned, right, so we have 4 basic shitot here that we went over yesterday, right, whether we're talking about the right side, the left part that's pointing down, the left that's pointing up, or even the end of the right hand side, not the whole right hand side, but part of the right hand side, and then the possibility in the itcher that what we learn from this sugya is that anytime you're missing any tagin, any crowns, that is problematic. So that's where we were yesterday. Now, what we had begun discussing yesterday is why are each of these invalidated, and we said, broadly speaking, there are 2 main reasons why something might be invalid. One is that it is not writing at all, and the other is that it's writing, but Right, it's missing something that maybe is unique to the halachot of Sefer Torah. And I said, just for organizational purposes, the best way, I think the easiest way of thinking about it is if you look at the Gemara in number 7. The Gemara in 7 introduces a principle in the writing of a Sefer Torah called Ktiva Tama, perfect writing. Right, and I think the easiest way of just, as I mentioned yesterday, of conceptualizing this is simply recognizing that something might be invalid for two basic reasons. One is that it doesn't count as ktiva, right? It's not writing in any way, shape, or form anywhere. And the other is that maybe it is, but Sefer Torah requires tama, requires a certain level of perfection. And as we said, the number one nafkamina to this question is going to be, is this a universal invalidation or not? Right? Is it universally invalidating or not? And I gave you a few sources on that. So let us look at the machloket in number 8 that the Beit Yosef records between the Agur and the Ri Askandarni. Okay, who wants to take? Who got to the Beit Yosef? Someone read it. Good, Nachum, take the Beit Yosef.
The Kasav Agur, Yud Haregel Kitzar, Yaaseh Kitzar, the Akum, the small,
Klape small.
Klape small. The leg of the Yud should be, you should make it
short and twisted towards the left.
The low Tadma Levav, and not long like a vav. The Kasav Od Hasheni.
So that it doesn't look like a vav. Why'd you get long?
Right.
Shelo tidmeh, so it doesn't look like a vav.
The Kasav Od Hasheni Kotzot, and if you write more than the two.
No, but Kasav Od, he also write.
Hasheni Kotzot.
Hashnei Kotzot.
Shnei Kotzot Yaseh b'Yod. You should make the two Kotzot on the Yod. B'terem Yitchil Lichtov Osacheres. Before you go on to write another letter, ki psula, because it will be
ki psula he below elu hashnei kotzot.
It will be possible without these two kotzot.
L'divrei Rabbeinu Tam.
These are the words of Rabbeinu Tam, according to Rabbeinu Tam.
No, actually, you know what? I did this in. No, you know what? Hold the Beit Yosef, because this is actually the. No, you know what? Let's do it. This is the second nafkamina, right? The second nafkamina, I said, we'll get to the question of gittin, right? But I said there are two main questions that we'll see this. And one is whether it spills over into other places. The other is that what is one of the rules, Nachum, in a Sefer Torah? What is very important about a Sefer Torah? In what order does one have to write the Sefer Torah?
Word by word.
In order, thank you. Right? Straight, right? Meaning you can't go back, you have to write it in order. Right?
In order to continue, you have to finish each letter.
Correct.
Wait a second, so how can you fix it?
So how can you fix it, right? So it depends on how.
The full word.
So it depends on something is broken, right? If the letter is fundamentally kasher and you just need to add the fixes, is it still written in order, even if it's puzzle? Yes. If something was so mistaken that it's no longer a letter, what do you need to do?
Right, erase the whole puzzle. Erase the whole
right, you
word.
have to erase. Right, you have to erase before you can rewrite. Right? Good. So that's the question that Beit Yosef is talking about.
You have to erase what?
Like you can't just erase that letter and fill it in the middle. You got to erase what comes afterwards and go back and write.
You have to erase everything?
Well, I think
it's a mistake in the beginning of duration.
So we'll see later in the Gemara how much. So we'll see how much you have to erase, right? There are certain types of mistakes where you might just have to erase the pasuk, but in certain ones, you have to take the entire, not the whole Torah, but you might have to take the entire leaf, right, and take it out and replace it, right?
let's say you buy a Sefer Torah. And you don't know.
We'll see this. This is what the Gemara talks about, right? Cases where there's invalidations, where certain invalidations, there's too many of them, so now you have to replace the page, you have to replace whatever matzilin is, right, etc. We're gonna get to details of this, but for the moment, right? This is what we're talking about, right? Can you go back? Under what circumstances can you go back and just fix the letter? Or do you have to erase whatever you have to erase in order to make sure that the Torah is considered written in order? And you can see how the easiest way of explaining this is going to be right? Again, what types of mistakes will you have to simply fix, and which ones will you have to go back, erase and rewrite, given that the Torah has to be written in order? Nachum. Again, right?
I'm sorry, I was thinking something. I was thinking, sorry.
Again, right? What types of mistakes do you expect that you'd have to just go back and fix, and you wouldn't have to worry about the order? And which ones would you have to order?
If it's still a letter or not.
Yeah, thank you. So that's what the Beis Yosef is dealing with. So he quotes the Agur, who says that what? Right? That if it doesn't have the two, right, coats in, however you understand it, of the Yud, so then, right, you got to make sure that those are done before you continue. Why?
Because it's not a kosher
Thank
letter.
you. Right, good. Klomar, meaning, if you continue to write another letter and then you made the kotot, have a katav shaloki sidran v'yignezu. What do you have to do?
Out of order.
Put it in geniza. It's puzzle. You've just messed up your Torah, right? That's the Agur. What does the Ri Askandarni say?
V'zel lashon hari Askandarni. Nimsa b'Hagos Maimon, that we find in the Hagos Maimon, Shemati shekotz hayod, that if you, what is Shemati?
I heard.
Heard that the coats of the Yod, the Akiv l'Rabbeinu Tam, is Ma'akiv to Rabbeinu Tam.
What does that mean?
Connected to what?
No. Ma'akev prevents you from fulfilling your obligation. Li Rabbeinu Tam, according to Rabbeinu Tam.
So reliant or?
Me'akev prevents you from fulfilling your obligation. That's what that word means.
Yeah, so you have to.
No. That's what it means.
It has its own responsibility to be in its correct form.
No. Me'akev. That's what the word ma'akev means. Why do you keep saying? This is a translation, not a me'akev. Right? Prevents you from fulfilling your obligation. Ma'akev is to prevent. What?
According to Rabbeinu.
You
Yes.
said they're ma'akiv on each other. How does that translate?
Prevent each other from fulfilling, right? They are necessary. They prevent each other from being kasher.
Okay.
Right? The word ma'akev means to prevent. Mikom makom.
Nevertheless, it's tefillin and mezuzah. And tefillin and mezuzah lo im lo asan. If you did not do the kotot, lo pasol mi acher sheshem yud aleh, because the name yud is still on the letter. Afilu below os o kots she mitzad smoel, that even if it's not with the coats that's on the left side, aval beregel shel tzad yamin, but with the leg on the right side, im lo asa b'tchila ein letikna, it is not
Ein letakna. You can't fix it achar kach.
after it.
B'tfilin u'mezuzot mishum she'ein nikra yud below to regel v'nimtza kotvan shelo kesidran. Right. So, what do they say? What are the Agur and the right? Yeah. So what does he say? What is their machlokes?
What?
Saying that like if you mess up, you have to fulfill the letter itself before you change the next.
What do they say?
Yeah, but what's considered
One of them, the Agur says what? They're arguing.
One says
right?
the koto.
Okay. Which of the letters do they think is not a letter at all? Which mistake? Which koso shall you understanding?
The one that they agree on?
Which one do they think would not be a letter at all?
Which one do they agree would
If
not
it
be
didn't have the
Yes.
The one on the right.
Right, Rashi. Right? Remember no one liked Rashi? Why did no one like Rashi? Because it's obvious. Why is it obvious?
Because it doesn't look even remotely.
Correct, because we're not talking about an invalidation of a letter, we're talking about a non-letter. Right? And that can't be what we're talking about.
Right.
And everyone else said, well, we must be arguing about something less obvious, namely the kotso shel yud, something on the left side, right? One of those parts of the left-hand side of the letter. But within that, when Rabbeinu Tam says that without that it's invalid, he could be saying one of two things. Right? What could he be saying? He could either be saying it's invalid because
It's not a yud.
it's not a yud, and even though it looks much more like a yud than a yud that's missing the right-hand side, in the end of the day, a yud that's missing that part of the left is still not a yud. Right? Or he could be saying, it is a yud, but it's an invalid yud. Right? The nafkamina is, right, what's the difference here going to be?
Can you
Fixing it, right? Can you fix it, or would you have to erase to fix because it's now out of order? And the Agur and the Ri Achsandarni, right? Whatever, right? Argue. The Agur says, how does Rabbeinu Tam conceptualize his Kotzin Shel Yud?
That it's part of the letter.
That it's part of the letter, and therefore, just like according to Rashi, if you were missing it, right, you could not continue. You cannot go back and fix it because you're writing it out of order. It is an invalid letter, right? Same thing is true if you're missing the quotes. And how does, right, the re, let's just say the re, right? How does the re, whatever his last name is, understand it?
It's still considered a letter.
Correct. It's still a letter, and therefore
this is kasav to
it's pasul, but it's considered written in order. Right now, by the way, if you look at these, and this is the fair point, Daniel, right? You have a picture there also, right? Right? You sort of understand why you might say that it's not a letter at all when you look at these, right? When you look at our yuds, the Ksav Beit Yosef, right? Remember we looked at it yesterday with the little, right, sort of thin lines? It's hard to say that's not a letter if you're missing part of the left side, because it very much looks like a yud. But if you look at these pictures, this is what Adam pointed out to me yesterday, you look at this picture, do you understand why you might argue that if you're missing part of the, right, the part that like juts down, why this is not a yud at all?
Yeah.
Right? It's like looking like that. Right? You can see why you might argue that makes it not a yud. Right? The picture makes it make a little bit more sense. There is a plausible reason why that would not be a yud. Right? You could see it going both ways, much more than in ours. Right? Our yuds, if you just take away a little bit of that, sort of jut, right? Who would look at that and say, that's not just a puzzle yud, it's a non-yud? Right? Everyone looks at it and can tell it's a yud. Here, you can sort of understand why if you cut off part of that left-hand side, it sort of looks like a yud, but sort of doesn't, which is why there might be a machloket about this. Yes? Is everyone clear on the pictorial thing? Yeah? Even those who are not looking at the picture, do you understand? Right? Again, look at the picture, look at the yud, and understand why if you cut off part of the left-hand side, right, why you could have a plausible machlokes if that's a non-yud or just a puzzle yud, right?
This is all in context of you writing it for the first time to create it, to make a separate Torah, or in terms of fixing it?
Same.
Why would you be?
We're going to get to the fixing, but if something becomes puzzle and then you go back and fix it when it's not a letter, you've now written out of order.
How have you
and now it's kosher, and now it's puzzle.
Why is the order not set once you already made the Torah?
Because it is puzzle. You just invalidated the letter. It's not there. You're now writing out of order. Right? The word is now meaningless because there's a missing letter, and now you're going back and putting it in out of order.
You're not putting it out of order. If you were to write it originally and it's fine as the way it's supposed to be, but just after you...
I don't want to get into the full things of fixing because we're going to get
But
there.
after use, like the kotso get...
And this is what we're going to get into. We're going to get into the question of how to kosher a sefer Torah, because that's later in the sugya. But first we got to talk about the different types of invalidations there are. But this seems to be the machloket in the Beit Yosef. The second, right, axis, we said that you judge these things on. You judge these things on is it invalid in all halachic writing or only in Sefer Torah? So this is the question that Truman Hadeshen dealt with.
Well, the Beit Yosef seems like it's just on Tefillin.
Yes, that's his context clearly. Now let's move to the Truman Hadeshen. Who is the Truman Hadeshen?
Yisrael Israelim.
Yisrael Israelim. Good.
From Austria.
He is also super... You looked it up. Yeah. Good.
1390 through 1460.
Very nice. Very nice. Why is he important?
Because he wrote the Truman.
Simcha, why is the Truman Hadeshen important?
It's every person.
Put that away.
It's every person is important.
Why is the Truman Hadeshen important?
Because you put him on the source sheet.
I've granted him his importance. No.
He wrote a book of tshuva.
He did. And what is special about his book of Tshuva, Yosef and Nachum, who I expect you to know that?
We follow.
What?
We follow the book.
Yes, we do. Why? Because according to Rosh Hashanah, again, I've never checked this, but I mentioned this to Rosh Hashanah last year. What is unique about the Truman Hadeshen? He has the clean sweep. All 354 of his Tshuvot are mentioned in Shulchan Aruch Hadanose Kelim. Every last one of them.
Wait,
right?
You didn't say you can't when you said you haven't personally looked at it or something like that just now.
Correct. I'm not supposed to trust anyone. I said Rosh Hashanah claims that is true, and as I have said, I have not checked. But I offer you all to go look. But what I do know is that he's at least important enough that I can't immediately disprove that claim, right? I do, on this one, I'm taking Rosh Hashanah's word. You're right, I should never trust anyone. I take it only because I'm not going to go check it. But the point being, he's very, very important, okay? So the Truman Adeshin writes as follows. So he was asked, She'elah, Ayin l'kamon, Zimin Reish Lamed Vav, fine. Shin v'ayin shebeget, im ha'yudin shebetocha einam nogot bahen. V'chein ma she'achorei hatzadi v'hayud shal ha'alef, im ein nogim bahen, aval im smuchim kol kasha tinok korei ha'ot b'li gimgum, yesh kfeida ki ha'gavna im lav. Right, he asked if in a get, right, on several different letters, whether, right, whether the tzadi, if the yud part of the tzadi, it doesn't touch it, but people can read it, right? A kid could read it, right? Which we'll get to, right? That was in Chaf Teram and Beis, right? The kid reading it, is this, basically, are all the strictures that we have in a Sefer Torah important in a get? And he writes, Yir'ed l'cha'ora muchach medivrei ha'geonim, Diyesh kveida v'chi'agavna afilu le'akev. From the Geonim, it sounds like we care, and without these strictures on the writing, you're prevented from fulfilling your obligation. Shrei katab or zarua hagadol. Who's the or zarua?
I don't know that one up.
Who's the or zarua? What? So in this one you will not get it because or zarua has nothing to do with his name. His name is Yitzchak. He's from Vienna. Yitzchak of Vienna. Why is his sefer called the or zarua? What? Good. Why would he put that pasuk in? His name is Yitzchak. Ma Kesher. Right? Most people like things with their name. Why is he called the Or Zarua? So much so, by the way, not only is he the Or Zarua, his son, Chaim wrote his sefer called Chaim Or Zarua. Not Junior, but close enough. Or Zarua Junior. Fine. Chaim Or Zarua. The Marach Or Zarua. Why is it called the Or Zarua? It is. If I told this to you last year and you forgot it, I'm sorry. But it's one of the weirdest reasons ever. The Rabbi Yitzchak of Vienna writes in his Hagdama that for a long time he just didn't know and was kept up late at night. He just didn't know the answer to this very vexing halachic question. Is Akiva written Aleph Kuf Yud Vet Aleph or Aleph Kuf Yud Vet Hey? This bothered him. Ayin, yes, Akiva starts with an ayin.
No, what about the end?
Aleph or Hey? Aleph or Hey? Right? He was very, very bothered by this. How should you properly write it? And he didn't know. And suddenly it came to him in a dream. That, if you look at the pasuk, Or Zarua La Tzadik Ulishrei Lev Simcha, it is Sofei Tevot, right? Meaning the last letter of each word is Or is Reish, so Rabbi, right? The Reish Muchik, right? Zarua is Ayin, La Tzadik is Kuf, Uli Yishrei is Yud, Lev is Bet, Simcha is Hey. And from here he realized that Akiva is spelled with a Hey at the end, and this changed his life, and therefore he named his book Or Zarua. I kid you not that this is what it says in Akdama the Or Zarua.
I would think I would remember something like that.
What?
I would think I would remember something.
You would, so maybe I didn't tell it to you.
It says no?
Yes, but that's Aramaic, and the question is how you halach spell it.
How do you do it?
So the Or Zarua said with a Hey, and he knew this because of the Sofei Tevot of the pasuk of Or Zarua La Tzadik L'Shrei Lev Simcha.
Mistake to write it with Aleph? It's a mistake to write it with Aleph?
According to Or Zarua, it is a mistake to write it with an Aleph. Yes.
According to
I don't know. We write in
Why is there a halachic way to write Akiva?
get. In a get, you need to spell a name right. If not, the get is puzzle, and the woman is still married.
No odd way.
Shoot,
You're in trouble.
that's a problem.
It's a big shiloh. It's a big shiloh. It's a big shiloh. It is a big problem. Ksubas is a bit of an issue, but it's not such a big deal. But again, it's a huge issue. It is a very, very big deal. Okay? Good. So the true Zadeshin quotes in the Or Zarua. V'tzarech lechto k'tiva gaza v'lo mishita v'afilu kotzin shel yud ma'akvin beget ad kan. The Or Zarua held, when you write a get, do you need to write the yuds with the kotzin shel yud? What?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, the Or Zarua says Yes. Right? What does he clearly think? What does he think about the kotes and shel yud? Do they make it a yud, or are they just halachot and sefer Torah?
They make it a yud.
They make it a yud. Very good. And what then the Shimon Adeshin write uvahagot ashri gedolah b'maimon. Sorry, vahagot amaimoni gedolah b'maimon b'chot tefillin katav v'nei mori rabbeinu. Sheyud pasali tefillin sheyud shel Abba Marizal rak b'shul miktzat hayudin shal alfin and miktzat hayudin shel chashinin, right? And he quotes all these different things. In the next line he says v'katav. We'll leave aside what he's actually talking about in the tufts and everything, but he says v'katav delo garam mikotzel shel yud damrinu b'perak hakometz dema'akev debi'inan ktivat tama ushleima. He quotes that God Maimoni that why is a yud without the coats invalid?
It's not beautiful.
Because it's not ktivat tama. What would that imply?
That tefillin needs ktivat tama.
That
It's still a letter. That it's
They
not.
need the chop of the letter?
And what is so? Look at the next line. He says, "Ve'ein lomar adirabba midlo posel maharam el mishum dekatav uktavtam timat tama." He said, "There's a deal you might want to say, which is that what? That maybe that it's only possible in a sefer Torah,
But no.
V'lo shurab sukkah v'gabeget lo ba'ktivat tama." You might say it's not true, right? So what the Or Zarua says, don't say that that's true. Look at the last line. He says, Maybe the Maram is saying two things. This is the last line. Minahay ve'akuf tiladrasha asya va'od afilu yayakut zashuyot lomakev hacha makev betfilin mishum debar ksivatam v'loshvuru psuka. So he says, look, on the examples that the Or Zarua was giving, so the Agon Maimoni was giving, the tough and all that, those are invalid for two reasons. One is, they're not ktav, they're not ktivat tama. But what does the Shulchan Adeshin imply about the yud without the coats for the purpose of a get? Kosher. Right, kosher. Right? Because, and he tells you why. Because it's not invalid because it's not ktiva. It's invalid only because it's not tama. Right? And here you see, again, this question. If you think it's not writing, then it will be possible in all areas of halachot. If not, right, then it might only be possible in Sifrei Torah, in Tefillin, in Mezuzah. Okay. Now, who got to the... Remember I said if you finish them, start practicing your modern Hebrew and modern analysis and read. Who did it? Good, so let's start reading it together. So you guys go get yours and go borrow some from Trinibet guys and give it out to guys. Okay. Share with Nate and take his phone away. Don't take it away, but put it away. No. Thanks.
Where are we opening up?
To page 122, to Siman Yudchet Surat Ha'ot. Yeah, there's one in the front. There, let's... I think we have two more, we'll be okay. 2 or 3 more.
The best you could say is the weaker arm.
Yeah, it's a. Do you still have your fake smicha letter? The LED now?
I don't think so. Some peanuts? Do you want?
Number of... Okay, what do you mean? Hold on, give a chance.
Come on. Take one.
Where do you say to go to? 128.
Simon Yudchet.
Ernie.
Oh, I'm not burning the
Ernie is just Ernie. Say that for. It's too late to say Ernie, so say Ernie. It makes 0 sense.
Yeah, it really does.
Man, you guys were so annoying with the memes and the stickers. And
You just don't like how I used your face for one of the.
I just left that chat.
What?
I'm done with it.
Yeah. You just didn't like how I used your face for one of the stickers.
I deleted it.
It's a funny face. Oh! You purposely did that.
I didn't know you would make it a sticker.
How couldn't I?
Was that the first night when I had that falafel?
No. You said that's the face you made. It's like, look, bro, I gotta take a picture. And you faked, and you just faked the face. Yeah.
We have a few copies. We'll share. Okay, so the Rav first quotes the Mechaber. He quotes Shulchan Aruch as follows. Okay, this is on page 122. He writes, "HaMechaber pasak." Right, Shulchan Aruch rules that kol ochi ktuva shelo kitikna ve'ein surata ala. Any letter written improperly, kagon naga regal ha'alef begaga alef, like if the leg of the olive touches the roof, right? O sha'ita orachad chalukal shteyot yod kagon sadi shkadev yod nun. Right, a tzadi is made up of a yod and a nun. If it gets split into two letters, va'achar shekatav lefanav chazar v'chtiknei. And after you write, you go back and write again. So what's the halacha?
It's not considered.
122. Kuf chaf bet. Right? So have a shalo kisses ranu psulin. Right? We already saw this in the Beit Yosef. Right? Meaning the Shulchan Aruch that we just saw is based on the Beit Yosef that we just read. Okay? Shim lo hayu miktzat yudin sha'ala alfin vashinin va'ainin v'raglei atavin nogin beguf ha'ot. Right? If all these letters aren't connected. V'tinok delo chakim v'lo tipesh makiram sha'ava b'shikatav levneim yachol lachzor letaknam. But he said if some of the yods on the aleph or the shin and the ayin or the legs of the taf if they were touching, right, and a kid could read them, right, there's just a little bit of fixing that has to be done, so you're allowed to write it out of order. המחבר מונה טעויות מסוימות בכתיבת אותיות שאפשר לתקן בתפילין לאחר שהמשיך בכתיבה. The Shulchan Aruch lists certain type of mistakes that you're not allowed to go back and fix once you've continued. משום שיש בתקנן פסול שלא כסדרן. Because writing them is considered, right, fixing them is considered writing out of order. Utaliyot acherot and other errors. She'efshar l'taknan af b'tfilin. There are other errors that you're allowed to fix, even out of order, even in tefillin. Ve'ein tikun nechshav l'ktiva shelo kisidran, and they're not considered writing out of order. Hal klal ha'olem midvaravhu. Here's the summary of his position. She'im ha'taut pogemet b'tzurat ha'ot. If the mistake affects the letter itself, tikunahu begeder ktiva chadasha, then fixing it is considered writing anew. Mimela me'achar shemshich b'ktiva. Therefore, if you continue writing, efshar lachzor letaknan et ha'od achar kach mishum psul shelo kitzidran. You can't go back and write it because since the letter stopped being a letter, if you go back and write it, you are rewriting it out of order. Al kol od ha'taud rak posel et ha'ov. But if you have a mistake which only invalidates, ve'ena pogemet et zarada, but doesn't make it a non-letter, ein hagod apsul begeder ktiva, right? Then fixing it isn't considered rewriting it, which would make it out of order. What is it considered?
Right.
Fixing it, right? Right. Again, if a mistake makes it a non-letter, going back to fix it is rewriting. If it stays a letter, it's just an invalid letter, then it's just fixing, and the writing is still in order. Below shayach v'psul shel kisidran, yeah.
Finish everything and then go back and do that?
Right, I mean, if you're still there, that's no problem, right? But once you've continued, and it's
there's 7 mistakes throughout the Torah.
So then you can go back and fix it.
But you can't, right after you do it, fix it.
You could right after. What you can't do is make a mistake that totally makes the letter a non-letter and then continue and then go back. Because then,
That's what I'm saying. If you make a mistake that makes it a non-letter, and finish Sefer Torah, can you then go back?
nope. Then it's puzzle. That would be invalidating the Sefer Torah because now you're writing it out of order, right? Because now it's missing a letter, right? If it just has a minor mistake that invalidates,
So you'd have to rewrite the entire Sefer Torah, or just that part?
you'd have to rewrite, right? The whole Torah is puzzle at that point, right? Now, how you do it is, again, we'll get to, right? Replacing column, right? Replacing, right, etc. But the point is, you can't just go back and fix the letter. How you do fix it, we'll get to. But you can't just go back and connect and correct the letter. The letter exists. And there, right? The Rabbi is pretty clear here, right? The two sides that we've set up. And then fixing it is just fixing it, is making it kosher, but it's not rewriting it. Omnam. But the real question is, right? The $1 million question is, which mistakes count as which type, right? Which are just a fulfillment of ktivat hama, they're just the way the Torah needs it, and which ones are about making a letter a letter. She says, Binyan ze yesh lachkor. Im kol od vod yesh la tzura misuyemet, v'kasher yesh pigam b'tzura zo ein gan od klal. You have to ask by every letter, right? Does it have an identity, a form? And if you mess it up, it is no longer an od. V'ema od nikeret v'nikreit, and if it's readable, oshema right? Oshema karada od kriyata hein go v'tzurata. He said, what does it make something a letter? Is it its form? Or the fact that it is readable as a letter, meaning it's recognizable. We call ot anikret al yidei tino ki begeder ot. And any letter that it can be read by a child is a letter. So now the Rav takes us to what is going to be a very important question, and I think we'll do it probably tomorrow, but I want to set it up now, right? Which is the following. On Chavtet Amud Aleph, all the invalidations and validations of letters describe what? He just read it. The form of the letter. The standard on Chavtet Amud Beis, which is, how do you know if something is kosher or not? What do? You
ask a child.
You ask a child, which is that about the form or about readability? Right? What? It's about readability, right? Right?
But not the form.
But not the form of the letter. It's about the readability of the letter, right? So the Rav, right, reformulates the question. This is really the important question in our sugya is, what is the connection between the first half and the second half of the sugya? Meaning, right, what makes a letter a letter? Right? It's clear from our sugya, we've already seen this, that sometimes a letter is a letter, it's just a puzzle letter. Sometimes it's a invalid letter. But what is and so far we've seen assertions on both sides, right? This is an invalid letter, this is a valid letter, but it's, right, not good for a Sefer Torah. But that question may hang on this other question, which is, what is the connection between the claims on Daf Chavtet, that in order for something to be defined as a letter, it must have a particular form, and the claims on Daf Chavtet Amud Beis, which is, in order to know whether a letter is kasher, it needs to be readable. Now, what might be the relationship between those two? Right? Let's lay out theoretical possibilities.
It has to be both.
So, right, one is that it has to be both, right? Then what's the connection between Amud Aleph and Amud Bet, right? If it needs to be both, are they connected?
Yeah.
No, right? Meaning these are two rules being introduced, right? One would be, it needs to have proper form, and even if technically a kid could read it, it is possible if it doesn't have the form. Remember yesterday we talked about this, right? That sometimes, right? Correct, right? That's one way of looking at this. Remember yesterday we talked about this, right? Sometimes you can read a word even if it has the wrong letters in the middle, right? So if I asked you, is it readable? What would you say?
Yes.
Yes. Is it the word that we're looking for? No, right? Meaning we all understand that it's possible that something could be readable but be the wrong letter, and vice versa. Something could technically, right? Maybe you could plausibly, right, in some universe, imagine that this looks like a letter, but if it's not readable, right? Or you could say that they are judged right? That those are related principles. Yeah.
What is the Torah considered admissible in the Torah? What is it considered admissible? Let's see the letters from the place.
Oh, that's for sure pasul. Nope. Nope.
Because then you're technically making new word.
Yep. Same problem. That's for sure. Shalom Kisidron's out of order. Right? That's literally Shalom Kisidron. It's out of order. Nope.
Oh wait, there's another one. What if?
Again, we're going to get to exactly how you do all these, but this is the basic principles.
Rabbi Salatonic said we'll have a lot of what ifs today. So
What?
Rabbi Salatonic spoke yesterday. He's like, you guys will all have what ifs today.
Yeah.
What if they're not level one? That it may come to be difficult. So let's say you had the word.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to the requirement of sirtut, right? Sirtut is... Nachum, what's sirtut? Myself here.
Oh, the lines.
Correct. You have to write lines. Have you ever looked in the Sefer Torah? You notice those indented lines?
They're not eating, but they're just for a class. Sometimes they go a little off the line.
Yeah, that's a problem. Right, we'll get to exactly how that's a problem. By the way, but sirtut is very different, because in the Torah, the line is not below the letter you're writing, it's above. Right? You write from the line down. Right? Not the line up.
Well,
But you're right. Part of the question is going to be... That is a question.
they don't want you to draw this onto a
So now, but for the moment, I want to just read through this, or at least some of this piece by the Rav, because the way he analyzes the Shulchan Aruch is going to help us as we analyze each question independently. Tomorrow, I want to do the question of Tinok, right, and maybe Mukav Gvil. Start Mukav Gvil as well, right? That's the other one here, right? The question of But here's the Rav's attempt at understanding Shulchan Aruch, which again will help model the type of things we're looking for here. So he says, Mashma shekovea he had surah. At the beginning of the halacha that we just quoted, seems to assume that what makes a letter, the form, right? Because he's talking about any which is any letter which isn't written, kitikna, etc. The simple read of Shulchan Aruch is that if a letter is missing its basic form, even if it's readable, even if a child can read it, ein kan ot, it is not a letter. Right? Now he goes back, quoting, Kol ot shektuva shelo tikna ve'ein surata aleh kigon naga regel ha'alef begaga alef o she'aregel hey, a regular kuf no game, right? Meaning if the legs and of the different letters touch when they're not supposed to. Or the letter gets split into two. Right? Meaning we can all imagine this, right? You can all imagine. Can you all imagine for a moment a tzadi which you would be able to read as a tzadi but is not kosher? Right? Where if there's a little space between the two halves of it, but you look at it and you know what he was trying to do, right? It's readable, but it's not readable. But it's not a letter. Right? It's readable because you can intuit it. Right, the Shulchan Aruch, right, the Rav is being medayik that according to the Rav, hakarat tinok won't help you when the form is missing. Because the form is missing, it's not about readability, it's about this is not the letter, readable or not, it's not a letter, right? Right? And even if you can sort of tell the guy was trying to do an aleph, he just didn't connect any of the parts, right? He came close to it, right? We can all imagine this, right? You're all imagining it? Because I don't have the board to draw it, right?
It's a form of a letter, but you can read it.
Right? It's the same way that we all know, right? You sort of know that I'm trying to make an A like this, even though this is obviously not an A, right? This is like, or a Y. This is not really a Y, right? You all sort of know that I want a Y, right? Things can be interpretable even if they're not a letter.
Is that a reference to a Christian song?
No, a song about a Christian organization.
Okay.
Right?
It's a form of a letter, but you can read it.
Young Men's Christian Association? No.
I know what it stood for either.
I knew the CA stood for Christian something.
If there's a form of a letter, but you can read it.
What?
If there's the form of letters there, but you can read it. The opposite.
Hey, okay, 1 second. So he says, Umash Mashiach Taknan. So the Rav says, well, anytime the Shulchan Aruch describes something as missing its basic form, what is the implication of the Shulchan Aruch? Can you go back and fix it?
No.
No, even if what?
Even if
I feel it's even if it's readable. Ach be'emshech halacha pasaka mechaber shem lo hayu mixat yudin shal alfin v'ashinin v'ainin v'raglei atavin nogin beguf ha'ot. That if part of the yud on the aleph, etc., are not touching, and a kid understands them, you can go back and fix it. The kevan de shurat hazot because the form of the letter was visible. But what's the problem? The mistakes in both the first and the second half of Shulchan Aruch are what? Mistakes in what? The Tzurat Ha'ot. And yet in half of them, the Rav says, that's invalid because the Tzura is missing, the form is missing. In the second half, he says, as long as a child can read it, it's fine. So he says, Terem, so if we skip down, so skip for a moment because we haven't really seen all the stuff in the middle, but skip to the next page, to Kochav Daled, to where he goes back to our sugya. La'or Hanal, right? So La'or Hanal, Afshar Lachzor L'Divrei Mechaber Binyan Tayo B'Tzarada Odiyah. Let's go back to the Shulchan Aruch. Harei Dvarav Oskim Be'Odiyot HaMurkavot Miyudin Kasher HaYudin Eina Mechubarim L'Gofaot. He's talking about letters that are made up of yuds, but the yud is not attached. Okay? L'shitato efshar l'takein ta'uyot elu im tinok makiram. He said such letters you are allowed to fix as long as a kid can read them. Ve'ein bazem mishum k'tiva shelo k'sidran. It's not considered writing out of order. Nireh lahasbir al piyam avor menachot. We can explain it by going back to our Gemara. Va'afilu katav achat makvad. Right. So our Gemara had said even a single letter in a Sefer Torah prevents you from fulfilling your obligation. Pshita, isn't that obvious? Amar Yehuda Marav lo nitzrachai lo kotzo shel yud. L'chaora yesh l'dayek migmara zo. What does this teach us? Shechisaron kotzo shel yud eino mevatel et tzurat ha'ot. Or the simplest read of our sugya is that is missing a kotzo shel yud. Does it make it a non-letter or does it make it a invalid letter?
Invalid letter.
Invalid. That was why everyone disagreed with Rashi, right? Remember, every Rishon, why did you disagree with Rashi? Because Rashi's mistake, they think, make it a non-letter, and they think the sugya should be about letters that are yuds. They're just not halachically significant yuds, or for Sefer Torah, not perfect yuds. So he says, "Shari barur legam tachon odachat ma'akev," because he said if it was a case where the letter doesn't exist, that would be obvious. V'avo pichen ha'gemara dana b'din chisaron kotzos yud, and yet it still talks to the kotzos yud. Mashma shetzur oda yud eina piguma afal pisha kotz chaser la. It sounds like something can be a yud even if it's missing a kotz. Umuchach mizeh. What does this prove? Shechisaron kotzo sheyud omnam psul midinei stam. Right, that a missing kotz of a yud is an invalidation of the world of stam, of Sefer Torah and Tefillin and Mezuzah. Ach mikol makom sur hayud beina omedet. V'hinei. But he said once you know that.
They just get really loud.
What?
One day we find a perfect topic where we can all scream at each other about it, just to get through that.
We have to all know it though, or know the sugya very well though.
Okay, so now I'm not going to read the rest of the Rav right now. I'm going to hold off on it, right? But the Rav sets up what we just said, right? He says so. One nafkamina is, as we already know, it is the question of out of order. But now what he introduces in tomorrow, right? Let me outline what I want you guys to do tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow I want you to try to read this piece by the Rav, right? What we haven't read. Because the Rav is going to take this chakira that we just mentioned about yuds, and he's going to then try to use it to explain the Shulchan Aruch's analysis of letters that are made up of yuds. Right? This is where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Because since the letters in the Sefer Torah are made up of other letters, right? Like a tzadi is a nun plus a yud, right? The Rav is going to argue that the key to understanding the Shulchan Aruch's positions, not just about yuds, but about all those other letters, is how does this question we just asked about yuds, how does it map on?
Oh, because if the target doesn't...
Now you already see how it's going, right? So tomorrow I want you to think about this, right? Is map it onto the other yuds, right? That's point one. I'm going to print out a source sheet for you tomorrow, right? About, since we've now started on it, this question of the connection between Chavtet and Amud Aleph, which talks about the form of the letter, and
The readability.
And the readability, right? There are three deot in Rishonim and Achronim about how to connect Amud Aleph to Amud Bet, right? But again, we've opened up the issue, which is at first glance, Daf Chavtet talks about the form of letters, and Chavtet Amud Beis, which talks about the kid reading it, talks not about form of letter, but about readability. And what is actually the connection between those two, right? Do you need both? Are they saying the same thing, right? 3 shitot on that. We'll see that tomorrow. Okay, and then probably the day after that we'll do the Mukav Gvil question, right? That was the holes in it and the missing parts of parchment. That will take us to, I guess, Sunday, right? Which is when we can move on to the next sugya. What I want to just show you quickly is that if I had to ask you, right? Let's just to sort of highlight this. If I had to ask you to guess all the halacha that you find on the next page about crowns, right? If you had to guess, if you're missing a crown, right?
Well, it depends on where.
So what would you tell me? What would you guess? Is that about it not being a letter? Is it not about Ktivat Tamah?
Ktivat Tamah in the Sefer Torah.
So
No, the Sefer Torah halachically needs the crown.
So what would you say, right? Would you say that the crowns make it not a letter? They make it a letter, but puzzle for Sefer Torah. They're only lechatchila on Sefer Torah, but if you don't have them, it's not such a big deal. What would you say?
Probably the second. It makes it the Sefer Torah makes it the letter.
So if you look at the Rambam, what does the Rambam say? And again, based on this, you'll understand where these machlokot come from, right? So the Rambam in Tefillin Mezuzah Sefer Torah Bet Tet says the following. 182. He says, if you look at the last line, he says, Kol ha'otiyot mituyagot sheishesrei. All the letters that have crowns, these little crowns, they're 16. V'im lo asa tagin o sifig arabehan. If you don't put the crowns, you put too many or too little. Lo pasal. They are not pasul.
Yeah, but is this tefillin or this is
Sefer
Torah?
It's
not the context.
The context of that is he's saying there are 16 letters that get crowns in the
Stam.
Whatever. Yeah, that's why the context are tefillin. That's why the Sefer Torah is different.
And he says, right, the lo pasal.
He said lo pasul.
But that's tefillin.
They're not pasul.
They're not
I
pasul.
understand, but that's tefillin.
He's saying.
For tefillin.
Yeah, but a Sefer Torah, it might be possible.
I don't think he does say that. But look for a moment.
Talking about tefillin.
Talking about it being about a letter.
So the Torah understands it the way I did. This is true of all of them. Look at the Torah. Look at the last source on the page. Guys, last source on the page. Torah. Look at the Torah. Look at the Torah. Im chaser ela ziyunin kadav Rambam she'eno pasul. The Rambam. This is in Hilchot where? Sefer Torah.
We all looked at
Rambam was in the
The Torah is right in Sefer Torah. V'yireshu pasul. But the Torah says it's invalid. Came with the Marava Sheva Otiyot Shichin Shlosha Ziyunin Ma'akvin. V'chein Yirem Milashon Adoni Avi Harash Zal. Shekadav V'chot Tefillin Amashkadav B'Shimush Rabbi Shadach Tefillin Tagen Acherem Chutz Mishat Nizgatz Im Chitzer Me'em Psulin. He said, I think they are invalid, right? Even not the 7, right? We'll see later on the Amud, there are 7, the Gemara list, that need crowns, right? But all of them, because they are Halach Moshe Mizinai,
part of the
right? So now,
because the Rambam is not talking about Sefer Torah, though.
But this analysis, the Rambam versus the Torah, or the Rambam versus the Rush, opens up yet another category that we have, which is what? Right now, just to outline what we have. What possibilities do we have? We have things which are non-letters, right? We have things which are letters but are pasul. We have things which are only lechatchila in a Sefer Torah, but not only are they not only are they letters, but they're even kosher. They're just not ideal. What? But the evidence is post facto. Lechatchila is ab initio, right?
So lechatchila, you should have the crown.
Yes, but right, possible categories that we have are things which are non-letters, things which are letters but invalid for Sefer Torah, things which are even kosher for Sefer Torah, but are b'di'evet, right? That's how the Rambam understands.
That if you did it,
if you're missing the crowns, but again, we might have to distinguish between the 7 crowns, Shatnei Scott's letters on the bottom of Chatan with Beis, right? Again, we haven't read it yet, but I'm trying to set you up to understand the way we have to think on these sugyot, because they're a bit technical, but we need to write it, and ones that right, or only right lechatchil b'diavad don't pasol. And then the next sort of axis you need to understand things is when we're talking about validation, invalidation letters, right? There are two poles. There are invalidation, validation that stem from the form of the letter, and then there are those that stem from the readability of the letter, right? Which may or may not be connected. Now, clearly, the crown issue is related to which? The form of the letter, the readability.
Formal.
Form.
Why form?
Because you can still read the
Because
letter.
you can read the letter without the crowns.
One of the crowns is to get a certain message from it, so you have to read it a certain
No, it's about form. You can read the letter. There are mea chutz. You can read the letter, right? No, just no, right? You can you not read a letter without the crown?
You can.
So then it's not about readability. It's about form.
No, I mean the purpose of the crowns is to read a certain message.
No, it's to derive something from its form.
That we don't know. That we don't know.
That's not about readability. That's about form. That's about deriving something from the tag, right? That's not about readability. Readability is can a child read it, right? That's the standard in halacha. Child, right? So again, what I want you guys to do tomorrow is we've started, right? I think we should finish this tomorrow, right? Tomorrow we should have no problem in finishing the Rav and reading the 3 shitot about the connection between Amud Aleph, the question of form of letters and the readability issues on Chavten and Beis. How are they related, right? I guess Sunday will have to be the question of Mukav Gvil, and that will finish that, and then I want to at least spend one day just sort of running through the basic sugya about the crowns, right? So, like reading up till Lamed Amud Aleph, so that, let's say Monday, right? And then after that, we'll figure out what you want to do, how much of the Sefer Torah stuff you want to do. It sounds like you guys are interested in at least doing some of the questions of, okay, well, how do you correct a Sefer Torah, right? How do we do, which is a little bit later on. We'll see how long we spend in Sefer Torah. Eventually, I do want to get to the Tefillin Sugyas, which are fascinating, that Ginsburg Shir started with. What? And then, and also, I really do want to do the Tzitzis and Tchelet Sugyas, which are Malchet. Those are a lot of fun.
Tchelet, Rabbi.
But we'll stop there for now. What? Megillah is a bit different, correct? Megillah is different, right? Because Megillah has a lot more things that are kosher in Megillah that are not in any other stam. That is 100% correct.
Like you go right in Megillah anymore.